Good morning, everybody. Let's pray together. Heavenly Father,
Heavenly Father,
Divine Mother,
Divine Mother,
Friend Pitapika,
Friend of God,
Jesus Christ,
Jesus Christ,
Babaji Krishna,
Babaji Krishna,
Lahiri Maharaja,
Lahiri Maharaja,
Swamiji Yukteswari,
Swamiji,
Beloved Guru,
Beloved Guru,
Paramhansa Yogananda,
Paramhansa,
Saints of all religions,
Saints of all religions,
we bow to all of you. We ask your blessings
we ask your blessings
on our lives. Make them a service to thee.
Make them a service to
And may
thee.
all souls
May all souls
be drawn by thy love.
be drawn by thy love.
Om. Peace. Amen. So how do you like my tenor voice?
Would you like to do life flows on like a river?
He who clothes the fields with lilies,
He who feeds the birds of the air,
he who floods the hills with sunshine,
He whose love all creatures share,
will he not clothe us, will he not feed us?
are we not like them his own?
Fill your chalice at his fountain, know that you live not alone, know that you live not alone. Lord, may we serve you all our days, ever rejoice to sing your praise, as we together your wisdom seek. Charge us with truth whene'er we speak. Lord, may we ever know your will. Come to us when our thoughts are still, as we your guidance with joy receive. May we as one your bliss achieve, as we your guidance with joy receive. May we as one your bliss achieve.
Very good. Do you have your guitar?
This song is from Swamiji's piano sonata entitled The Divine Romance. This is the first movement called God's Call Within.
Nice color.
Whispering within your soul, hints of laughter, hints of joy, sweet songs of sadness, of quenchless yearning for the light, for my love, your true home. Long your heart has played the dancer, long you toyed with mirror shadows of the treasures left behind you, deep in your soul. Long you plumbed the dark for answers, long you begged from beggars' empty hands, gifts of life they too were seeking, gifts none could share. Friend, how long will you wander? Friend, as long as you seek your home in a land where all are strangers, love locks her door. Leave to the weak his grave, and life to the cowardly. saint, wake up, reclaim the light, seek the truth behind your seeming. Turn, turn, turn within, in silence of soul, in cave of love, find my abode. Whispering within your soul, winds of laughter, winds of joy, sweet songs of sadness, of quenchless yearning for the light, for my love, your true home.
Thank you very much. That was beautiful. I have just finished. Is this on here? I'm used to hearing my own voice better. Thank you. I think that's better. I have just finished a job that I think you will all appreciate. When I first came to Master, about 1 month later, he had me come out to the desert, to his retreat in the desert, and he said that I'm not satisfied with the SRF lessons, I want to redo them. And he dictated one lesson and he never got around to it. I think he wanted me to be there and wanted to say this to me because he had this in mind for me. And then he had me read all the lessons instead of waiting over the long period of time, and he made me the examiner of the lessons. And I always thought that somebody else was supposed to do those lessons, but she's not done it, and they haven't been done. And in all these years, suddenly the inspiration came to me to do these lessons. And in the last just over 1 month, I have written one whole course of lessons. I'm going to write 2. This is called Yoga Practice for Daily Living, and the other is called Yoga Practice for Meditation. And it's a very good course. It's about the equivalent. The first course is the equivalent of a book of about 383 pages. And I have realized another thing. At 86, one should not push oneself that hard. I'm a bit tired. But anyway, I'm extremely happy with it, and I hope you all will get it. We're going to put them online, and they'll be free, donation basis. But I want everyone to get them if possible, because they will give you the feeling of what it is to find self-realization. They're called Lessons in Self-Realization. And they're going to go out for 1 year. And the first one will be the yoga practice in daily life. And the second week will be yoga meditation. And as I say, I finished one course, and I'm on the second one of the second course. I don't think it won't be so long, and it may not be so long in duration either. I don't know. Anyway, one of the main things that these teachings emphasize is the importance of getting rid of this ego. Ego, people often think, means pride. It doesn't mean pride. It means, that's an exaggerated manifestation of ego. But ego basically means the thinking that I am separate from you. I am separate from God. I have somebody who has to take care of himself, etc., etc., etc. And there are many things that we need to do to overcome this. We need to minimize in our own minds our sense of importance. When I came 5 minutes late this morning, I said, that's all right, it just will make me look more important. But in fact, we need to get rid of that. I was at a dinner that I was hosting for several famous speakers in America, and this was many years ago. It was a conference on how to start communities. I was the only person present who had actually started a community and made a success of it. And they all talked to other people because they were all on the lecture circuit. I'm not on the lecture circuit. And I thought for a moment it was sort of surprise that people would ignore me. And then I thought how absolutely wonderful it is to be totally unimportant. I was paying for the meal, too. I thought this is glorious. Any time somebody insults you or slights you, take it as a compliment. You're trying to get rid of this sense of your importance. Don't feel that you have to be at the head of the line and so on. So anyway, this is one aspect of it. The other aspect of it, do you know where the ego is centered in the body? In the medulla oblongata. But the ego is passive. This is the positive center. And if you die in ego consciousness, you fade back into the temporary sleep of death. But if you go here, you can go out consciously. We want to bring our consciousness here. I never had seen a black widow spider before, but at least in my house. But I opened my closet door in the bathroom, and there was this spider. And the web it weaves, you don't have to worry about black widows in this country. You have your own problems. But it's the most messy web you've ever seen. Most spiders have this nice, neat little web. This was just sort of cotton wool. And that's sort of like what our egos create around ourselves. That's why Chitta, Patanjali said that yoga is Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Yoga is the neutralization of all these chitta, the feelings. The feeling is in the heart. Books on Patanjali. And if you haven't read my book on Patanjali, please do, because it finally makes sense of it. You read the average book on Patanjali, it doesn't make any sense. They say, for example, that chitta is mind stuff, or what's the other word? Mental modifications. What do those things mean? And chitta really comes from the heart. I like this, I don't like that. I'm attached to this, I'm not attached, I'm repelled by that. These things we've got to get rid of. We've got to be able to accept life as it is and not feel that we want to make it in our own image, so to speak. Well, those are the chittas, and we have to get rid of those chittas. And the ways of doing it are basically, first of all, as it says in the Srimad Bhagavatam, think of the heart as a lotus, with all the petals going in different directions, turn them all up toward the brain. The next thing is to concentrate here. And the third thing is the things you can do all the time in your lives, every day, just to be calm about things, not get excited about things, not be upset if things don't go the way you would like them to, not think that I want things, I've failed in business, I'm very discouraged. What does it matter? If you fail in business this time, you will have a success next time. Remember that the nature of Maya is Dvaita, duality. Everything, when God created the universe, he had we can put it this way, a sheet of water. And when the wind of Maya blew over that water, the waves began to come. And the waves up and down are the waves of duality. Everything has its opposite. Joy, pain, pleasure, pain, joy, sorrow, heat, cold, male, female, everything is opposite. We've got to get rid of that sense of opposite and feel that everything is one. Well, if we put our minds here, that this is the seat of willpower in the body. And by our willpower, we can gradually bring all those strands of consciousness to one point. You know, I don't know how many of you have read Gulliver's Travels. It's a good book, and it was written in the 18th century by an Englishman, Jonathan Swift. Anyway, in Gulliver, he lands in a shipwreck on an island where all the people are very tiny, and they find this giant lying on the beach, and they are afraid of him, and so they have ropes, but the ropes to him are like threads, and there's no way of tying that man down. But then they get the solution. Take many threads. And so with thousands and thousands of threads, they tie him to the beach. Then when he woke up, he couldn't get up. So these little strands, each one of them is not strong necessarily. Some are strong, but many are not. One time my guru said, you have to get rid of all desires. I said, sir, even such a simple desire as a desire for an ice cream cone? Oh, yes. It's just a little thing, but if there are many thousands of little things, they pull you down. And so one way to get rid of them is to put the mind here at the point between the eyebrows and offer everything there. The joy that you feel here, I remember I asked my guru one time to help me get rid of the desire for good food. And he said, don't worry about those little things. When ecstasy comes, everything goes. So you don't have to worry too much about the little ice cream cones and so on. Still know that they, in their millions, hold you down. So try to practice a little bit of tapasya, a little bit of withdrawal from everything. Bit by bit, you will find that freedom comes to you from willpower, from the joy that you find. It takes a long time. I am sorry to say, it takes a long time. I asked my guru, does it always take so long? Because I had asked him, how long have I been your disciple? He said, it's been a long time, that's all I'll say. And I didn't want to feel as if I was the only sluggard in the whole crowd. So I said, does it always take so long? He said, oh yes, desires for name and fame. I think those were the desires he was referring to me because I was a king before and so on. But all kinds of desires take us away again and again. Now those things mean nothing to me. But they're there. We have to get rid of them, and it takes a long time after meeting the guru to get all those strands together. People ask, do you need a guru? Depending on the way they ask that question, if they ask it arrogantly, I say, no, you don't need a guru. But you have to reach the point when you just know that you need help. I reached that point when I was a young man. I remember I went out. I had tried to find the truth for all my life, but I tried to find it without God, because frankly, the God that I was told about in church was so boring. It just didn't interest me. So I tried to find him through astronomy, through uplifting society, through the arts, or different ways. I realized that every way is a dead end. There's no, it doesn't reach anywhere. And finally I reached the point where I said, there just has to be a God. And I remember I went out into the night near Charleston, South Carolina, and I said, if there's a God, what must he be? And I said, well, what is making me ask this question? Well, obviously the fact that I'm conscious. Then that means that he must be consciousness. And then my job must be to try to attune myself and open myself to his consciousness. And this was a very Vedantic understanding. Nothing in Western philosophy teaches that. And I decided when I came home that night that the only thing I had to do in life, the only thing I could do, was to devote my life to seeking God. And then I began to wonder, am I going crazy? I didn't know about the lives of saints. I didn't know anybody had ever found God. And I for a while I thought, well, I must be going crazy. And then I realized that even if I go crazy, I have no choice. I have to find God, or I have to at least try. And I thought of going to a jungle in Brazil. I didn't know anything about India or Vedanta or all of that. So I thought of going to some jungle and becoming a hermit. And I smoked. And I thought, whoever heard of a hermit who smokes? And so I tried to give it up. And that was the first thing I tried to give up. And it wasn't easy. Mark Twain said, smoking is the easiest thing in the world to give up. I've done it 1,000 times. Well, I struggled, and when my lunch coffee, when I was sipping my lunch coffee, that cigarette tasted so good, and I would go back. But here's another lesson that's very important. I never told myself I have failed. I always said I have not yet succeeded. Please keep that thought in mind, because we all make mistakes in life. We all commit certain poppies, but don't let it discourage you. Just get up and dust your hands off and go on. The saint, my guru used to say, is a sinner who never gave up. And we must keep trying, and then we will get there. But it took me a year, I have to admit. I remember one night I was rooming with 4 other young men, and I said to them, I'm giving up smoking tomorrow. Oh, we've heard that one before. I said, no, I'm serious. The next morning I had no desire for a cigarette, and I had a half-empty packet in my pocket, and I gave it to other people. But trying and trying, finally you get the strength to do. So never tell yourself, I'm a failure. That's an affirmation. Tell yourself, I have not yet succeeded. And sooner or later you have to. And you have eternity to succeed. So don't be in a hurry. Don't get discouraged. Just do your best. How many lifetimes does it take to find God? Well, let's put it this way. Omar Khayyam, who is actually a great saint, and his rubaiyat are not a love poem at all. He had to disguise it as a love poem because among the Muslims what he was writing was heretical. But it's a deep, deep mystical scripture, and I've written a book on it. It's a wonderful book. It's Yogananda's book, but I edited it and made it poetic. And that book and the Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita says, first of all, Umar Khayyam in one of his quatrains says that many who are still wandering in many who are still in delusion at the beginning of a day of Brahma, at the end of a day of Brahma, are still wandering in delusion. And in the Gita it says, at the beginning of a day of Brahma, I throw all these souls out again and yet again. And you wonder, have I been going several days of Brahma? It's a scary thought. I plan to scare you because I want you to wake up and do something about it. What's the use of wandering? You never get fulfillment. You never find what you're looking for. You never find success. Everything is based on duality. If you find success, then you're going to have to find failure. If you have fulfillment, you find some way to have disaster. It just cannot work. There's only one thing that works, and that is finding God. That is why Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, O Arjuna, get away from my ocean of suffering and misery. And why do people keep going? Because in addition to the suffering and misery, there's always the other side, and you have pleasures, and you can go down to the bar and get a nice drink, or you can get a nice house and get everything. There was a man who had communed with God, but he was very sickly and very poor. And an angel came to him at death and said, "Are you satisfied?" He said, "Lord, I would like to at least have a healthy body." So he got in his next life a strong, healthy body. And the thing is that he never had enough to eat to feed this healthy body. And when he was dying, the angel said to him, "Is there anything more you would like?" "Yes, I would like to have enough money to be able to feed this body and not die of starvation." And he said, "All right." And so the next life he was born with wealth and health. And when he was dying, the angel said, "What? No." And the man said, "Lord, I think I've got it all together. I'm dying of loneliness. If I could just have a nice wife." And so in his next life, he had health, he had wealth, he had a wife, and everything was right. Except she died after a year. And he was worshiping her gloves and her shoes and her... and so he said, when the angel appeared at death, he said, "Lord, I think I have it all now. I want health, I want wealth, I want a wife, I want her to live a long life." So the next life he had health, and he had wealth, and he had a wife, and she lived a long life. In fact, she lived too long, and he got tired of her. And in their old age, he fell in love with his secretary, and she only was interested in him for his money. And when she ran off with that, he ended up, and when the time of death came, the angel said, "Have you got it all now?" "No, Lord, I know it all now. I don't want anything. I just want your love." And that's what we have got to understand. That encapsulates in just 3 to 4 lifetimes what we go through for millions of lifetimes. But at the end of all of them, there's always some disappointment, something that doesn't work. And look at how many old people. I mean, you see me more or less happy. In fact, I'm extremely happy. But usually old people are not happy. They're disappointed. They wish they'd done this. They wish they'd done that. Fortunately, I don't have that. But that's because I'm a yogi. And I urge you all to become yogis. You don't have to go into a hermit's cave. You can be a hermit in your own house by meditating a little bit. And you don't have to meditate for a long time, but the more you meditate, the more you'll develop a taste for it. It will become easy in time. So remember that. To get rid of the ego, offer yourself to God. People offer things on the altar. Well, Krishna says you can offer me a leaf or a flower. Okay, that's a beginning, but don't think it's going to get you there. He accepts that offering. Then he's going to say, "What next?" Because what he really wants you to do is give him yourself. When you've given him yourself with all your desires, with everything, your ego, everything, then you find him. And there's no joy to compare with that. So let me ask you if you have any questions to ask. And Shurjo, come here so you can translate for me. I know you speak English, but I don't hear well. And I'm not asking God for another life so I can hear better. What's that?
Can you tell us something about Kriya Yoga?
Kriya Yoga is, when you see, let us say, a beautiful sunset, you think, "Oh, that's a beautiful sunset." But the sunset isn't beautiful. It's you yourself who are happy in seeing it. Otherwise, a turtle could see the sunset, and it would like maybe something like good to eat or something, but he wouldn't have that kind of joy. And so all our enjoyment of life really comes from inside. It's our reaction that counts. Now, our reaction is tied to the breath and to the currents in the spine. Whenever you see something you really love, isn't that so? When you see something that really scares you, these are tied to the astral breath. The way you breathe in the spine is the way you breathe in the astral breath. In the astral world, there isn't any air to breathe. They breathe in the astral spine. The breath comes up, the energy comes up through Ida and goes down through Pingala. And these two currents are it's not as if all day long you're sort of, it's not that. But when the energy incoming is stronger than the energy outgoing, there's this imbalance. And when it's stronger outgoing than ingoing, it's also an imbalance. In Hong Shou, in the technique, you watch the breath, but as you breathe, you should concentrate more on the exhalation, because when you finally go breathless, the energy enters into the sushumna, and then it begins to rise. Kundalini rises from the base of the spine, and you unite your soul with God. So in Kriya Yoga, what we are doing is trying to magnetize the spine, first of all, with our inhalation and exhalation. Feel that we are inhaling in the spine and exhaling through the spine until the energy, Master used to say, do Kriya Yoga so deeply that breath becomes mind. In other words, you're not breathing, your energy is in the spine itself. So I'm not going to teach you the technique, but that's the essence of it. And it's a very fine technique because it helps to straighten out all those, see the vrittis that Patanjali says we need to neutralize. They all are settled at different points in the spine. You're not as small as you think. Between the largest star and the smallest atom, you're about halfway in size. So you're pretty big. There's lots of space in your spine for billions of vrittis. And you need to, not that they take space at all, but you need to be able to free those vrittis. And Kriya Yoga helps to direct all those vrittis up toward the brain. And in this way, you find that you find some people who are tamasic, and their energy sort of don't hit me on the head, try to hit me on the head so I know I'm really living. They're sort of swatting flies like this. As people get more rajasic, and as they develop Vaishya qualities, and then Kshatriya qualities and Brahmin qualities, all these are tied to the gunas. There are three gunas. And why is there duality? Because the middle guna is action, and it leads either upward or downward, depending on whether it's sattva guna or rajya guna. Anyway, Kriya Yoga again directs all that energy toward the head, and it's a very important technique for that reason. Any other questions? What did he say?
What is the difference between a sadhak and a yogi?
No. A sadhak is somebody who practices sadhana. You're all sadhus, I hope, in that sense. At least you practice sadhaka, sadhana. And yogi, he should be a sadhak, but he also is practicing techniques. So a yogi is somebody who practices techniques. A sadhu is usually a renunciate, but a yogi can be a householder or a renunciate. And why do I wear blue instead of orange? Because the inspiration came to me some years ago to start a Naya Swami order, a new Swami order, which would be open to householders as well as to single people. If you are willing to dedicate your life to God, why separate yourself from why feel that you've got to be a householder and define yourself that way? Define yourself as a Naya Swami. Offer your energy to God. I've written a book on that, and I do urge you to read it. I think this is an important contribution that Master has made to society through me. We now have about 1,000 Naya Swamis. I remember when I started this thing, I was in Italy, and I was wearing blue, and an Indian said to me, he asked me what I am. I said, I'm a Naya Swami. He said, how many people in your order? I said, one. But now we have 1,000. And it is, I know the members of Ananda feel that it's been a very liberating thing to feel that they can really formally offer their lives to God. So if you want to read about that, please do. Now, yogi you're all yogis if you practice meditation. Sadhus, you're not usually. But I know some. Lahiri Mahashai, for instance, was a sadhu because he was married, but he was completely in God. You know, Lahiri Mahashai was Radha Janaka in a former lifetime. And all our gurus have been great gurus and great masters in the past. Anyway, any other questions?
So,
How can we learn to become more impersonal?
Don't think of anything or anyone as your own. Don't think this is mine. When people offend you, don't think that they're talking about you. It may be their problem. I remember there was one man who lived at Ananda. Because he was one of the founding members, I let him stay there. But he didn't pay dues as a member, and he was there for 12 years, and all he did was criticize. Finally, we got a new general manager, and the general manager called him in, and he said, look, why do you spend your whole time criticizing? And he said, well, I think it does the community good to have a gadfly. He said, well, I can accept that, but what is it doing for you? And he said, look, I'm going to give you an alternative. Either you start paying your dues or you leave. So he left. And before leaving, he came to my house. And he spent a whole hour, full hour, telling me what was wrong with me. And I just sat there and calmly took it. And I thought he's welcome to say anything he wants to. That's being impersonal. I thanked him after he left, and then I sat down at the piano and wrote one of my best songs. But I didn't say anything in rebuttal. So whatever people do to you, don't feel it's happening to you. Just it's happening. Just as when the rain falls, you don't look up and say, God, are you insulting me? So when people talk against you and to your face, it doesn't matter. It's their problem, not yours. And don't be attached to people. Don't be attached to circumstances. Don't be attached at all. Just, it's all God's show. Okay? I know you need that question, so I hope I've answered it well. Okay.
Swami, we have a question somebody wrote down for
Yeah.
us.
By the way, I love that pink on your fingernails. Okay.
Um, this this person says she's been on the spiritual path for a long time now, and has met many people from whom she's taken a lot of inspiration, who she respects and accepts as her guru in some fashion or the other. But she wants to know who is that one person whom we can always remember, and which will solve most of our all our problems, and who will always guide us in the right direction.
You know, the Guru is sent to you by God. The Guru is not the person. My Guru often said, I killed Yogananda long ago. No one lives in this body temple now but God. And I can say very clearly that it was God who drew me to Yogananda. I didn't shop the counter and decide, well, he's got the longest hair, I like him better. I was really, as I said, I was desperate. But I was born into a Christian family in the West where anything Indian seemed foreign and strange and slightly kooky. And, I mean, let's face it, People always favor their own way. And my father was a very rigid man. He could not have accepted it. He would have put up every possible obstacle to my coming to a guru. So God arranged everything for me. He arranged to get him sent to Egypt as a oil geologist. And the very day that I put my mother on the ship to go join him, I went uptown New York and found Autobiography of a Yogi. And that completely changed my life. I didn't have to ask my parents for permission. I think they would have been so opposed to my going that it would have been very difficult. For me, too, it was a complete change. I'd never heard of Indian teachings before. I had never heard the word guru. I'd never heard the word yoga. I thought it was a kind of yogurt. I didn't know anything. And I read this book and took the next bus across America, 3,000 miles. And the first words I said to my guru were, "I want to be your disciple." I could not have done that without some help. You know, my dad was sent to Egypt, and he found where oil would be found. But Mobile came in and got oil there because he was pulled out of there. And they sent him to France, and he found oil in France and got the Légion d'honneur and things like that. But he was sent to Egypt for my sake, not for his, because he didn't have any work to do in Egypt. So God sends you to your guru when you have a longing for it. And in the meantime, he will give you teachers to inspire you, books to inspire you. Accept them all and be grateful. But remember, it's always God who's sending these things to you. In the end, he will send you your guru. And it is not an easy thing to have a guru. By that I mean you don't then put your feet back, or lie back and put your feet up and rest. That's when the work begins. He said to me, "I give you my unconditional love." That really overwhelmed me. He asked me, "Do you give me yours?" I said, "Yes." He said, when I met my guru, he told this for my sake. It wasn't really what happened with his guru. I gave him my unconditional love. He gave me, and he asked me to give my unconditional love. And I said, "How could I love you unconditionally if I find you less than a Christ-like saint?" And he said, "I don't want your love. It stinks." And I said, then I understood, and I said, "I gave you my unconditional love." Well, he said that to me because in past lives I was a great doubter. If I can answer everybody's questions, it's because I've had all the doubts myself. I don't have them in this life. But he wanted to be sure I had come with that understanding. And in fact, a period of doubts came to me where it was so deep, this samskar inside me, that if he had said it's sunny in San Diego, I would have said, "I'll bet it's raining." This hateful voice in my subconscious would say that. And it was because of my love for him that I overcame those doubts. So love is very important. You have to give your guru your unconditional love. I have had people try to tell me some other guru is greater. I'm not interested. Saints have tried to draw me to them. I'm not interested. I know, even if my guru is second best, let it be, but he's mine. So that's a very important thing, unconditional love. Then he asked me my unconditional obedience. Well, that was a tough one for me. I had never obeyed anybody completely. I had always felt that I knew better than anybody else. And lots of people had tried to advise me, and I felt that most of their advice was not good. And so I said, "Sir, what if I think sometime you're wrong?" He said, "I will never ask anything of you that God himself does not tell me to ask you." Then I said, "In that case, I give you my unconditional love." And I have never broken either of those vows. And sometimes what he asked of me was not easy, but I remember I was invited to Beverly Hills to a Jewish bar mitzvah. I'm not Jewish, but they wanted me to perform the yogasanas. And so I did. And afterwards, I don't think many of you know America very well, but Beverly Hills is a place of materialists and cynics. And this was a cynical, materialistic psychiatrist. And he was trying to make fun of my beliefs and trying to ask probing questions. I kept answering him. And then I finally told him about a few miracles I had seen that my guru performed. And I could see him thinking, I have time on Wednesday morning at 11 for this patient. And I was with Master 2 days later. And I was sitting at the table with him. He said, oh, by the way, when you're with materialists and atheists, don't talk about miracles. I said, you knew. He said, I know every thought you think. Well, that's an amazing statement. But he proved it to be true. And amazing part, too, is he proved it to be true for all his disciples. Jim Culler, for example, he was a rather odd fellow. But he was the minister of our church in Phoenix, Arizona, and he was coming to Encinitas to see Master. And it was late at night, and he was on the highway, and he was getting a mighty hunger. And he couldn't find an open restaurant until finally he found one. All they had was hamburgers. And he thought, well, I'm awfully hungry. We're supposed to be vegetarian. But, oh, well, he won't know. So he had 2 hamburgers. When he got to Encinitas, he was talking with Master. At the end of the talk, Master said, by the way, James, when you're on the highway and it's late at night and you come to a restaurant that has nothing but hamburgers, better not eat anything. But he did this again and again. Some people have asked me, wasn't it awfully inconvenient to know that he knew every thought in your mind? I said, not at all. I wanted him to correct me, therefore I wanted to be completely open to him. And if I made a mistake, I wanted him to know it so he could correct me. But that's why I say it's not always easy, because he knows when you've done wrong. But if you're happy to take it from him, then it is easy. It's the easiest path there is, because it leads somewhere, and the other paths don't lead any more into another thicket. So any other questions? Yes.
A person spends 2 hours in meditation, 7 hours in sleep, still he has 15 hours in the day left. So what is the most ideal and the most practical way to spend those 15 hours to make sure that his energy level doesn't come down when he interacts with the world outside?
Swami, what does one do in the 15 hours of waking hours to keep one's energy high and up and always in a spiritual environment?
Offer everything that you do to God. Try to be among spiritual people. Now that is not easy. Many people have bosses that are not at all spiritual. Many people have co-workers that are not spiritual. Many people have husbands or wives who are not spiritual. Neighbors. Try as well as you can to get a spiritual environment and be among spiritual people. I would say that it might be worth leaving that job and finding a better one. But really, one of the greatest things that I have done in my life was to start communities. I've started 9 now, and we have about 1,000 people living in them on different continents. And all the people come here for God. Most of them are married, but they are living for God. And it's a wonderful way of life. People are all trying to help each other instead of, if you have a village of 1,000 people and everybody is competing with everybody else. Everyone has 999 enemies. And if everybody's cooperating, everybody has 999 friends. Well, in our communities, we have 999 friends. And many people, not just many of our members keep saying, this is absolutely the only way to live. And I really do suggest, If you can live in this community, bring some sort of work with you. We've got to be self-supporting. We're not like sheep eating the grass. We've got to make money somehow. So bring some sort of business here, but live here. You will find that the more you live among spiritual people, that is the greatest satisfaction. You have people, when you're in a down period, they help you instead of pushing you down further. They try to help you when you're out of a job. They try to help you until you can find a job. They're not there always putting you down. They're there to encourage you. And it's a heaven on earth. I have to say that. If there is anywhere on this planet that is heaven on earth, it is these Ananda communities. Please take me seriously, because at any age you don't need to worry about how old you are, as long as you can take care. We have a community in Portland that is for old people, not the community, a house in the community, but they're taken care of and they're blissfully happy. They go out and weed in the gardens and so on. And we have schools for children, schools that help to raise them to educate them for life, and instead of just teaching them how to get a job. It's a wonderful thing. Our students who have had to go off to other schools, they usually shine as students. They become leaders of the student body. They become successful in life because they know how to be successful human beings. The greatest part of success is not knowing how many times 17 times 16 makes in a flash. It's knowing how to get along with people, how to get along with yourself, how to be happy, how to be concentrated, how to have peace of mind. These are the things that lead to success in the world also. So in every way that I can possibly think, this is the answer. And I do urge you to take me seriously. I have now lived in this kind of community for 64 years. I have been 44 years since I started the first Ananda community, and I can say it's a blissful life. Okay, any other questions?
Can you say something about Babaji?
Babaji. What am I saying about Babaji? He's everywhere. You know, I should stop at one. Narayani told me to, and I believe in obedience. But anyway, Babaji. Okay, I was in Chennai, in Bandras in those days, and it was a reverse monsoon and very heavy rains, and I wanted so much to go for seclusion, and I didn't know where to go. I had to go back to Calcutta, and my work would begin there. I needed a rest before that, and I remember I was staying in a hotel, and so I was in my meditation before we're going down to breakfast, and I prayed to Babaji to help me to find a place of seclusion. So then I came down to breakfast and sat down, and the man at the table next to me, without any introduction, I'd never met him before, never discussed with him anything before, he said, "You know, I have a place in Kodaikanal, and I would be very, very happy if you would go there for seclusion sometime." So I did go. Well, this is what I mean by, it says, anybody who sincerely prays to Babaji will have an instantaneous answer. And there was a man in Yucatan, Pedro Gonzalez Milan, and he read the autobiography, and he read that passage there. He said, if this is true, I must know it. He prayed to Babaji. Suddenly the whole room was filled with light. So you're dealing with something real here. Take it seriously. God bless you all.